taking my dog for a walk, and I saw something you don't see every day. A huge windstorm had blown through the Twin Cities, where I'm currently living, and it blew the dock away from its mooring. I ran into somebody from the city and I asked, well, how are you going to get this dock reconnected? He said, I don't know. We've never been here before. And I was thinking about what a perfect metaphor this is to the impact that COVID has had on the lives of physicians and dentists. So this unexpected pandemic just blew through the world. It impacted physicians and dentists in a unique way, and it blew them away from their moorings, their professional moorings, their financial moorings. And right now, they are trying to get reconnected. And I am so delighted that you are here because you could potentially be one of those change agents that's helping to make this happen. So today what we're going to talk about is how to attract, engage, and serve doctor clients in 2022. I'm Dr. Vicki Rackner, your host. For the past decade, I've been helping financial advisors accelerate their growth by acquiring more doctor clients. Undoubtedly, you are here with a hope and dream. You have ideas about what you'd like to do if you were able to successfully serve more doctor clients. And so hopefully you're going to get some ideas to make that dream come true. So if you've ever wondered, how do I get past the gatekeeper? How do I get my message in front of more doctors? How do I inspire doctors to meet with me? You are in the right place. We're going to talk about some ideas that are going to help you acquire doctor clients without wasting your time or your money or your effort, even if you've had disappointing results in the past. There's an awful lot of financial services professionals who would like to work with doctors. They've launched campaigns in the past that have worked brilliantly with CEOs that have just flopped in the medical market. I'm going to try to help you understand why that happens and why that doesn't have to be your future. The bottom line here is that doctors need you now. So remember that bridge being torn away from its mooring. It needs to get reconnected, and you have some expertise that can help make that happen. So before I go into the formal content, I just want to address the elephant in the room. What in the world is a surgeon doing? Helping financial services professionals acquire doctor clients. So if my life had a bumper sticker, it would probably read, heal thyself. I faced challenges, found answers for myself, and then wanted to reach out to people who were coming behind me so that they didn't have to go through the struggles that I went through. So here's my story very briefly. I was in a graduate program in physics when one day I fainted on my way to the bathroom. I had some internal bleeding, and by the time the surgeons got into my belly, about half of my blood volume was in my pelvis. So before I went to the operating room, I said goodbye to my then fiance, and I really thought it was the final goodbye. I was so grateful to wake up that I just knew I was going to be a doctor, save other people's lives like my own had been saved. And not surprisingly, I became a surgeon. I was in private practice in Seattle, and I was the only woman surgeon on staff then. And my practice quickly evolved into a breast cancer practice. I loved this work. There were some days when I went into the office thinking, I'm having so much fun. I do this for free. And believe me, there were days where I was doing it for free. I got pregnant and I had a plan. I had this wonderful office manager, a couple of exam rooms, and I decided, why don't I convert one of my exam rooms into a nursery and have my office manager, Linda, take care of my son while I was off operating or seeing patients. And that actually worked pretty well until I couldn't really ignore the fact that my son was different. When he got to be the age where other kids were talking and my son was silent, I pushed my pediatrician for an evaluation, and he was diagnosed with broad spectrum developmental delay. That was the day that changed my life. I thought to myself, what have I done to my son? I'd operated my whole pregnancy, so that meant I exposed him to anesthetic gases. I used fluoroscopy in some of my procedures. My son was enrolled in a special state-funded school, and I took a leave from my practice because being a mom was my highest priority. I was going to do everything in my power to help my son. So I remember one day I was folding clothes and I got a call from a lawyer. Would you be willing to take a look at a case of medical malpractice? I thought anything but another load of laundry. So I took a look at that one case, which led to another and another and another. You always hate to see these kinds of x-rays when there's a surgical instrument in somebody's belly, but that was a really good living. And my son was in this special school for about a year, and he was retested, and he was actually booted out of the school because he now met all of the developmental landmarks. He has a wonderful brain that was just maturing on its own level. So at the end of this year, I had the question, well, what next for me? I certainly could have gone back to operating, but I thought, how many people have been a patient, a surgeon, a family caregiver, and seen where care went off track? So in 2000, I decided to pull a shift, and I decided to launch a consulting business helping doctors and patients collaborate more effectively to get better medical outcomes at a lower cost. And I thought, man, I did well as a surgeon. I'm going to do great as a consultant. And I struggled and struggled and struggled. I've once calculated that I've invested about as much in my sales and marketing training as I literally did in medical school. Well, I remember going over to Europe to deliver a talk, and I went to plug in my laptop. But of course, you can't plug into the electricity directly in Europe because Europe is wired differently. You need an adapter to make that happen. And I thought, man, this is it. I, as a doctor, am wired differently than my buyers who might like to write me a check. What I need is an adapter to go from the world of medicine to the world of business. And once I did that, my results transformed. So I've delivered keynote addresses at national meetings. I have journalists calling me. I've written numbers of books. And I don't say this to boast, but rather to make a point. And that point is that the value that I delivered was exactly the same before and after I created this adapter. But the presence of the adapter, really understanding the differences between my innate wiring and the wiring of the doctor, transformed my results. Okay, so then 2008 rolls around. And I start hearing about doctors who were thinking about filing for bankruptcy, who were having financial troubles. And I started thinking to myself, you mean I'm not the only one who has this dysfunctional relationship with money? So I started gathering stories about doctors and money. It sort of became my passion. And I have interviewed hundreds and hundreds of doctors. I consider myself sort of a cultural anthropologist about doctors and their relationship with money. And these findings have been summarized in 3 books. And you will get a replay link. And with the replay link, you'll be able to download a digital version of the 9 money mistakes that doctors make and the myth of the rich doctor. How Doctors Build True Wealth is going to be out soon. You will be able to understand the forces that impact doctors and their relationship with money. What I know is that unless and until you have financial security, nothing else in life really matters. I mean, we know that we shouldn't drive and text because that's distracted driving. Well, doctors who were worried about money engage in distracted doctoring. And I didn't think that that should happen. So who's going to be the right person to give doctors financial advice? Is it going to be somebody like me who's made every financial mistake that I write about? And I thought, look, if I really want to create leverage in my life, if I really want to make a big impact, addressing this problem about helping doctors achieve optimal financial health is the way to go. And the way to do that is maybe share what I've learned about these differences between the world of business and the world of medicine to financial services professionals who could then help doctors achieve wealth, which I define as the freedom to do what you want to do when you want to do it. Okay, so my secret sauce is bridging these two worlds. So for a decade, I've been helping financial advisors through my business Engaging Doctors. So that helps people like you, people with a business mindset, to cross over the bridge and build business relationships with doctors. But this bridge goes the other way too. So I have a second brand called Thriving Doctors, where I help doctors approach their professional lives with a more business mindset. And my tagline is create true wealth by using your heart of service and building your brain for business. So we already talked about wealth is the freedom to do what you want to do, when you want to do it. And true wealth is this condition where you do that so that your activities align with your values. So your checkbook and your calendar reflect what's most important to you. And that's what the new book is about. So if you've got to go and you want to be successful in Engaging Doctors, here's the main point to take away. Doctors are wired differently than you are. You're wired like a suit. You've got a business mindset. You really understand how money works. But the people that you are trying to engage, they function differently. Now, have you ever had a medical scare and you're sitting on the exam table and maybe your tush is naked and the doctor walks in, like you're worried about something really, really serious going on, and then there's the expert. You know that you're not alone, and the expert is going to be able to guide you through those decisions that you're going to have to make. Well, when it comes to doctor and money, now just imagine doctors in the exam table. When they're worried about money, they're outside of their day-to-day experience, they're outside of their comfort zone, and you are now the expert who's going to help them achieve optimal financial health. So you guys are wired differently. And my experience shows that building business relationships with doctors follows neither the B2B nor the B2C model. It's its own model. I call it the B2D model, how to conduct business with doctors. Okay, so that's how I got here. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about, first of all, why work with doctors? Second, how are things different right now? Third, why is it so hard? And fourth, what can you do if you want to be successful in the medical market? So let's just begin with the question, why work with doctors? Well, the major reason is Sutton's Law. When Willie Sutton was asked, why do you rob banks? He said, well, that's where the money is. And if you look at any potential clients, the medical market is where the money is. There are about 1 million practicing physicians, 200,000 practicing dentists in the U.S. According to the U.S. Department of Labor statistics, 10 out of the 10 top earners in the U.S. call themselves doctor. Further, about 40% of doctors are age 50 or older. So, of course, as we age, we grow our wealth. But here is the main number. According to the AMA Insurance Agency, about half of doctors self-report that they were behind in retirement planning before the COVID pandemic ever hit. This number has stayed the same year after year. And what that means is that the knowledge itself that you're behind in retirement planning does not inspire action. So doctors earn very well, but because of our dysfunctional relationship with money, we have a very difficult time translating our high earnings into wealth. All right, next, with the COVID pandemic, what we've seen is that not all industries survived. I mean, my heart breaks for the restaurateurs who put their life savings into their restaurants and lost business. But the medical market is recession-proof. It doesn't matter what's going on. We are always going to need our doctors. And as we looked at the recovery from the Great Recession, which was the first industry to recover, it was the medical industry. So from a business perspective, those are some pretty compelling reasons that the medical market is a prudent investment. But it gets even better. So doctors are incredibly loyal clients. So you know, with ultra high net worth clients, client acquisition is not as much of an issue as client retention, right? In the medical market, it is reversed. The barrier to entry is higher. And so people in my community know how to overcome that high barrier to entry. So now it's a good thing because it keeps out your competition who don't know the things that you know because you're here. But doctors are very, very loyal. And you're probably going to have that doctor client for life. But here is the best thing about doctors. They kind of gossip like teenage girls. So one day I got a really big check. It was almost 7 figures. I went to my buddy Bob and I said, Bob, I got a big check. What do I do? He said, Vicki, you need a financial advisor. Here, go and see my guy. He does a good job for me. My wife runs a nonprofit. She says he does a great job for them too. Okay, I decided because I trust Bob. And Bob trusted this other guy. So I think this financial advisor was kind of surprised when we got on the phone, and really all I wanted to know is, where do I send the check? So this is the real beauty and magic in the medical market. So to be successful, your end game is to become the go-to guy or go-to gal among targeted groups of doctors who share resources with each other, kind of like I did with Bob. And once that happens, there's some real magic that happens. I was talking with one of my private coaching clients. Now, he and his wife are really, really social. One of his favorite marketing activities was for he and his wife to invite a doctor couple out to dinner who were his clients, and then invite them to invite another couple. So, maybe 8 or 10 doctors would go out to dinner. This was really successful in his hands, a great way for him to build his practice. But we wanted to bump it up to the next level. So we were talking about inviting in experts who could sort of casually over the dinner table talk about different things like green investing. And so we were gearing up, we were planning it, and he said to me one day, look, we are just going to have to pull the plug on this. I am getting so many new clients. I don't know how I'm going to onboard them, let alone get in new clients. Well, this guy had achieved what I call escape velocity. If you launch a rocket ship into space, the bulk of the oomph is to overcome the Earth's gravitational field. Once you're over that, it's pretty much smooth sailing. So becoming the go-to guy or go-to gal among targeted groups of doctors is like overcoming the Earth's gravitational field. But once you get out of there, the real magic happens. Well, I wasn't going to let my client get away with this. And so what we decided to do was invite in 2 of his junior colleagues. And now his marketing activities are feeding not just him, but 3 people. So that is strategic growth. Physician engagement is different now than it was in 2019. Every year I sort of do a State of the Union address where I talk about what's working right now this year. And I cannot believe how different things are than they were in 2019. And so let's talk about some of the forces that make it a little different to engage doctors than it was in 2018. Of course, the main story is the COVID story. And let me just show you how this impacted doctors. The first is that doctors saw that death and disability were not just theoretical concerns that happened to other people. We could be disabled. We could die prematurely. So I will just tell you that many doctors are underinsured. Any doctor that you deal with, you should probably explore their insurance coverage. I mean, a surprising number of dentists, for example, don't have disability insurance. It's kind of financial Russian roulette here. And I think you'll find that doctors are a lot more responsive to issues about security. There has been a huge financial impact. So remember at the beginning of the pandemic, we were all at home. We were social distanced. Why? It was because we wanted to avoid the demand for healthcare services to exceed the supply. And what did we need? We needed ventilators. Well, every time I operated on a breast cancer patient, she was on a ventilator. And hospitals and clinics decided, you know what? We are not going to do any of these elective cases. We want to make sure that all of our resources can be devoted to COVID patients. Well, these elective cases are the engines that drive profitability of hospitals and individual practices. So in April of 2020, the Mayo Clinic was projecting a $3 billion shortfall as a result of canceling these elective procedures. They responded to that with across-the-board pay cuts. There were places where doctors were furloughed. Some major institutions decided that they weren't going to meet matching contributions to the 401k. And look, you're a suit. You know that there are business cycles. You know how to plan for them. But doctors never imagined a future in which their income would do anything but go up. So you could have, an orthopedic surgeon who earned, $1.5 million in 2018, finding that their income went down 80-90%. And remember, half of these doctors are already behind in retirement planning. If somebody's behind in retirement planning, that probably meant that they didn't have the emergency fund. So there was a sense of crisis. I'm a fellow of the American College of Surgeons. They really stood up and offered leadership to their fellows. And I was absolutely blown away when I got this invitation to a webinar, Economic Survival Strategies in the COVID World. Now, I invited the financial advisors who were part of my community, and you can become part of the community by just going to Engaging Doctors, signing up to get on my mailing list, and you'll hear about things like this. So on one computer, I was signed into the webinar. Another computer, I had my financial advisors eavesdropping. Now, you might imagine that they're going to send out an invitation to, tens of thousands of surgeons. They would get the best financial advisor there is to offer this kind of advice. They got a surgeon to deliver this advice. And a lot of the financial advisors who were eavesdropping on this said, bad information. Right, it was bad information. But the thing is that this is completely revelatory about how doctors get financial information. They want to go to their own for financial information. And that's why it's so important for you to be one of the tribe, the go-to guy or go-to gal. So the reputation about you gets around. All right. Every year, Medscape does a physician compensation report. You can go to Medscape and sign up for a free report. They just send out surveys to lots and lots of doctors and then tally the results. So in 2021, they listed the average annual physician incomes by specialty. I know this is kind of small, but what you see is that the highest earners are the urologists, the cardiologists, the gastroenterologists, the cardiothoracic surgeons, the plastic surgeons. And the doctors at the bottom are the primary care doctors in general. All right, the people at the top are the people who took the biggest hit, because these are people who were doing those elective cases. So they asked the question last year, when will you return to your pre-COVID income levels? About 40% said in the next year, 40% said in the next 2 or 3 years, but check this out, about 10% said never. So there was a lot of despair about this. So you're taking people who are already behind in retirement planning, you're exposing them to a new threat, a new environment that they are poorly equipped to deal with. And not surprisingly, there's some concern about financial recovery. Okay, the third major change with the COVID pandemic is that you probably had a telehealth visit. Now, this technology has been around for years and years. So why is it that we're just now doing telehealth? Well, it's because the insurance companies decided that they were going to pay for it. And I think there were a lot of doctors that were surprised because we have this idea that you've got to be knee to knee with a patient in order to do an assessment and render a diagnosis and offer treatment. But what we saw is that, in fact, you can do a lot of things virtually. So what that meant for you is that doctors saw that they could build business relationships virtually too. So a lot of financial advisors considered their prospecting area to be maybe within a half hour or an hour drive of their office. Now they could deal with doctors anywhere in the world. And doctors were okay with this because they'd had this experience that you could do meaningful things through virtual relationships. The next big trend that we saw is doctors getting social. So doctors are very social creatures. So we like hanging out in the doctor's dining room and the surgeon's lounge, but we weren't there, especially a lot of the ologists. So doctors started seeking social platforms in order to get together. And here's something that is probably going to shock you. The number one social platform that doctors are on is Facebook. And the reason is that Facebook has a feature where you can have these private groups. So there are groups of physicians, and they have taken great efforts to make sure that patients can't eavesdrop on their conversations. If you apply to join the group, they'll ask you, what year did you graduate from medical school? Which graduate school? Which medical school? Let's see a picture of you. And they affirm the identity before they let people in. So there are large numbers of doctors who are gathering. There is a group, physician side gigs. If you're not generating revenue from clinical activities, where does the money come from? That's what this group is about. Right now, there are close to 100,000 doctors who are part of this community. So if Facebook is a fishing hole, maybe that's where you want to go fishing. Okay, the fifth trend is an extension of an unfortunate trend that you need to know about if you work with doctors, which is the epidemic of despair, of burnout and suicide. The unfortunate truth is that we lose about the equivalent of a medical school graduating class to suicide each year. Oftentimes, finances are the thing that set people over the edge. For many years, we've also seen an epidemic of burnout. So doctors didn't want to see patients. They didn't want to be at the clinic or at the hospital. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be treated. I don't want my family members to be treated by somebody who doesn't want to go there. Again, every year, Medscape does a survey about burnout and suicide. In 2021, they looked back over 2020 and found that the incidence of burnout in 2020 was about the same as in 2019. It was about 42% of doctors, almost half of doctors, sometime in the year, didn't want to see patients. They took a look, and for about 80% of the doctors, their burnout predated COVID. For about 20% of doctors, COVID triggered them. It put them over the edge. Then they went and asked the doctors, which would most help to reduce your burnout? The number one answer was increased compensation to avoid financial stress. Now let me put that back to back with the data that I just showed you, where they were asked in the compensation survey, when will you return to pre-COVID levels? And there wasn't a lot of optimism that this was going to have to happen fast. So now we've got a chicken and egg thing going, right? We've got doctors with financial concerns both for today and tomorrow. They took a big hit during the COVID pandemic, and they don't know when they are going to return to normal. And as I'm saying all this, let me just emphasize that we physicians are very fortunate, right? We make a very generous living doing the work that we love. So I'm not trying to say this as a poor me. I'm just trying to give you some insight into how doctors think and how they see their reality. So just a quick tip. I think the best way out of this chicken and egg conundrum is helping doctors harvest tax savings. I think that this is the single best way to do this. Most doctors are just walking away from what could potentially be tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal and ethical tax savings. All right, so with all of this, you'd think that financial advisors would just be doing great. But every day I get calls from financial advisors who are really struggling. And, they say that they want to work with doctors. They've tried to work with doctors, but this campaign or that campaign didn't give them the results that they want. And these calls sort of remind me of a scene from my son's toddler years. He had this love affair with trucks, and the truth is that if we went out for a walk at night and we came across a construction truck, we'd play on them. Well, one day we came across this huge construction site, and he pointed his chubby little finger in the direction of the dirt pile, and he said, "Touch trucks." I said, "Sweetie, that would be great, but look, there's a fence all around the construction site. And do you see the sign on that locked gate? It says, 'Do not enter.'" And he thought for a moment, and he said, "Take down sign." And in a sense, this is what I do for my clients. So you want to work with doctors. You want to enter the medical turf. You can practically reach out and touch them, but it feels like there's something keeping you from them. And I help clients identify what that something is. I take down the do not enter sign, give them the proverbial hard hat so that they can actually go and engage with doctors. There are significant do not enter signs. So I don't mean to minimize this. This is one of my speaking contracts. And one of the requirements is that you disclose potential conflicts of interest. So if you want to speak in front of a group of doctors, you would have to say, yes, I have a financial interest in delivering this content because I'm hoping to acquire some new doctor clients. And sometimes this relationship will close platforms for you. So why is it so hard to reach the people that genuinely want and need your help? Well, probably the number one mistake is exactly the same mistake that I made, that I just told you about. It's a failure to bridge the cultural divide. It gets back to the core idea that doctors are wired differently than you are. I told you my story, but let me just give you another example. Part of my ongoing education is watching Shark Tank. There was a show a couple of years ago where a doctor entered the Shark Tank to get funding for his company, Syndaver. He sold synthetic cadavers. This is $1 billion industry. He'd already had millions of dollars in sales. The sharks were all engaged. And I thought, this guy is going to get a 5-shark deal. But then the questions started. Tell us about your revenue. Tell us about your profitability. And there on national TV, this doctor said to the sharks, well, I suppose I could make a lot of money if I wanted to, but money is not that important to me. What's important to me is making a difference. And with those answers, 4 sharks were out. He got a deal with Robert Herjavec that fell apart in a couple of weeks. Okay, what was the problem here? The problem was not about the value proposition. This was a great business. The problem is that the doctor didn't understand what the sharks wanted and needed to hear in order to say yes to him. They wanted and needed to hear, I'm going to take really good care of your money, and I'm going to help you see a significant return on your investment. And while we look at this and we might say, duh, I think that this speaks to the challenge that you might have faced if you tried to engage doctors in the past and you were not successful. So imagine that there's another reality show called Surgeon's Lounge. So you walk in and there are 5 surgeons sitting in plush leather chairs, and you want to do a deal with as many of them as possible. The number one mistake I see financial advisors making is exactly the same mistake that the doctor made when he entered the Shark Tank. It's a failure to understand what a doctor buyer needs to hear to press the buy button, to say yes to you. And that doctor said exactly what you needed to say. For doctors, it's not about the money. For doctors, it's about service. It's about making a difference. Now, if you sold vacation packages for doctors, it would be one thing, but your core value proposition has to do with money. So understanding this is really, really important. And if you read my books, you will understand the forces that shape doctors and their relationship with money. You'll also see how I talk with doctors about money. I've been all over the United States delivering ideas in these books to groups of doctors. Doctors love these books. So pay attention to the way I talk about money and think about adopting some of this language, some of the hooks as you speak with doctors. Okay, mistake number 2 is a failure to fit in. So doctors behave kind of like tropical fish. I remember somebody in my course said, oh, you mean they're like physicians? And I said, exactly. Doctors do this for the exact same reason that tropical fish do. It offers a mechanism to protect against predators. Now, doctors tend to be trusting people. We tend to get hooked into these dumb doctor deals. Most of us have been taken advantage by financial predators. So that's why the American College of Surgeons is getting a surgeon to deliver financial information rather than hiring somebody like you who would be more appropriate to deliver the content. This is why it's so important to earn your stripes as an insider. So you need to understand how doctors think and how doctors relate. And it kind of breaks my heart when I see financial advisors basically lose the sale at hello without even knowing why. In the world of business, we default to the first name, right? In the world of medicine, we default to the doctor title. So even if my very best friend from medical school were delivering a talk and I had questions, I went up to the mic, I wouldn't say, hey, Doreen, I've got a question about this data. I would say, Dr. Parkhurst, I'm wondering if you could comment. If you approach a doctor and use the doctor's first name, this tells the doctor, you're not one of us. You don't get how things work. So the rate at which you build your business is the rate at which you build trust. You need to know the secret handshakes. You need to know how this world works so that you can be seen as one of them. Next mistake is to deliver an unappealing message. I don't know if you've ever had problems getting your kids to eat their broccoli, the things that are good for them. The most effective way to do this is sneak it in to food that they already like. So as you're going out with marketing messages, you know what your prospects and clients need. But doctors are very skilled at ignoring you. So you need to understand what it is that they want. If you're a dog lover and if you've ever trained a puppy to come, you know that you put the puppy on a sit stay and then issue the command come, and the puppy kind of looks at you like, what? And since the puppy isn't coming to you, you approach the puppy, and now the puppy thinks it's a chase game. What you do is you issue the command come and then have a yummy treat. So the dog associates the command with the action with the reward. If you are trying to chase doctors, they are very skilled at evading you. You're not going to win a game of catch with a doctor. And if you have a yummy treat, something that doctors truly want, not something that you think that they need, but something that they genuinely want, and let's say you start a relationship by giving the doctor that thing, magic happens. Okay, next mistake is moving too fast. So doctors want to make sure that you really care about them before they're going to disclose their finances. They're going to open their financial kimono. If you try to rush this, if you ask doctors to open their financial kimono prematurely, they're going to run away. So with a business person, what you might say is, hey, let me see your profit and loss statement and I'll see what I can do for you. You can't do that with a doctor. They'll just shut you down. They need to trust you before they're going to disclose that kind of information. So you want to move slowly. I went to my top financial advisors in my community. I said, let's take a look at your top 10 doctor clients. Let's turn back the hands of time and figure out, how many contacts did you have with the doctor before they said yes to you? And there were two curves, one between 7 and 10 contacts. And I wasn't that surprised about that. The real masters of persuading doctors in their purchasing choices are the pharmaceutical industry, and they know that they've got to expose a doctor to a message between 7 and 10 times before a doctor takes action and prescribes their medication. So that's completely consistent with data that's already out there. But there was another peak between 0 and 2, and that's the way I found my financial advisor. So somebody that I trusted gave me the financial advisor's name. This is where the low-hanging fruit is. Cultivating a culture of introductions is really, really important. So if you know that it's going to take multiple contacts before a doctor converts, and it might be longer, right? I've had people on my list for 6-7 years before they finally pick up the phone and call me. Doesn't it make sense today to just make a commitment? Okay, I'm going to send out value to doctor prospects, people on my doctor list, on a regular basis. Maybe it's once a month, every 2 weeks, maybe even every week. Building digital sales funnels, I don't think is an option. I think if you want to be successful, you need to be collecting email addresses and you need to be sending out yummy treats, little pearls of wisdom on a regular basis. Probably the other big mistake I see is to fail to harness the power of leverage. So one of my mentors once said to me, think about the 5th sale first. So you might run into a doctor prospect. They're not a good fit for you, but that doctor went to medical school or dental school. They have colleagues. They have privileges at hospitals. They belong to medical associations. So even if you're not a good fit, this doctor that says no to you could potentially open up the doors to lots of marketing possibilities. So a lot of financial services professionals sort of have the hunter-gatherer mentality. I want to go out and bag an elephant. But think about what happened to society when we went to an agrarian culture. So if you're going to make an investment in the medical market, it's not to get 1 or 2 or 5 doctor clients. It's to build up this momentum so that you become the go-to guy or go-to gal in the community. So just coming in with the right mindset is very, very important. And I talk about one of the 10 laws of physician engagement, but one of them is the most influential person in a doctor's life is another doctor. Okay, just think about how I built a relationship with my first financial advisor. I never even met the guy. I decided to go with the guy because of what another doctor told me. So this is an example of the power of a physician to open up the red velvet rope and give you access to more doctors. Most financial advisors miss this amazing opportunity. So think about all of the ways that you can leverage the power of doctors. Maybe you have an advisory board. If you're giving a talk, maybe you have a doctor introduce you. You know, people make investments to get custom copies of my books, The 9 Money Mistakes That Doctors Make. They write a foreword and afterword, and now their name is tied with mine. We know doctors love these books. Now they're under my veil of credibility. So think about how you can basically get doctors saying nice things about you. So the people who are most successful are at the epicenter of the success triad. They've mastered digital sales funnels. They've mastered physician evangelism. And through the distribution of high-value content, they position themselves as experts for doctors. Okay, so here are 5 answers that you want to know in order to successfully be able to attract, engage, and serve doctor clients. So number 1, what questions are doctors asking? So your goal is not to be all things to all doctors. Your goal is to identify tribes of doctors that share 3 characteristics. First, they share similar sources of financial pain. So an employed physician is fundamentally different than a physician who owns his or her own practice. Second, these people network together so that they can talk about you. And third, you enjoy working with them because different groups of doctors have different temperaments. This is a very intimate relationship. Most financial advisors don't work with hundreds of doctors. They generally work with about 50 or 60 doctors, depending on their business model. So you're not looking for the whole world. You are going to be an important person in a doctor's life. When you see they're emailing you or calling you, ideally, it brings you genuine delight to see their name pop up. You really like working with them. So once you choose your tribes, what questions are they asking? And there is a huge variation in what's important to doctors, say, with the COVID pandemic, depending on where in the country they are. Like in Seattle, breast cancer patients were being asked to postpone their definitive cancer operation for months. In Florida, it's sort of like, what pandemic? So the place that you are in the country makes a difference. Your medical specialty makes a difference. There's all kinds of things that make a difference. But what you want to know is these doctors that you want to reach, what do they really care about? What questions are they asking? Where are doctors having conversations? Are these groups of doctors on Facebook? Are they going back to medical meetings? Where do they hang out? If we use the metaphor of fishing for engaging doctors, the questions they're asking inform like the bait that you use. Because if you can help a doctor answer that question, that makes a great bait. The fishing holes where they're gathered physically or virtually are your ideal fishing holes. Next, you want to know, how can I join the conversation? And really have a strategy for doing that. You make it easier by harnessing a physician evangelist. So who do you know who could help make that happen to you? How do you talk so doctors will listen? And there's some real art and science to crafting an engaging marketing message. And how can I harness the power of physician evangelism to really make this thing grow? That the city was able to successfully figure out a way of getting that dock reconnected to its mooring. There were sort of 3 different teams who helped do it. It was a solution that they never had before. So too, doctors can and will get back to their professional mooring, their personal mooring. And I think the question for you is, do you want to be one of the agents of transformation? Now you have a little more information about what's needed to actually engage doctors a little more effectively. Is this a good fit for you? Why might you be interested in doing this? Well, I remember getting a phone call from a client, and she and her husband were already very successful with doctors, yet she wanted to enroll in my signature course, which is called the Cracking the Physician Code course. I said, but you're pretty successful. Like, why do you want to invest in this course? And she said, well, I've got this vision. I want to take my family to the Dolomites to celebrate Christmas. And I know that if I take away just one idea, I'm going to be able to get there. And so she enrolled in the course, and sure enough, she sent me a postcard from the Dolomites. She was successful. She did pick up that one tip that really put her in the next level of earning, and she celebrated that. So if you are interested in strong business growth, well, first of all, maybe you decide that the medical market isn't for you. But if it is for you, you can take some of these ideas and maybe ask yourself, this seminar works really well for business owners. What can I do to make this work better for doctors? Because I believe that there really are ways of making your hopes and dreams come true by helping other people, specifically doctors, make their dreams come true. But of course, it all starts with taking action. One of the most impactful books that I read is called Who Not How by the strategic coach Dan Sullivan, and actually the person who really wrote the book, Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And the idea in the book is that we do have hopes, we do have dreams, and the logical question is to ask, how do I do it? They say the more strategic question to ask is, who can help me do this? So if you've decided that you would like to move forward in the medical market, you have a question. Would you like to take these ideas and apply them and do this on your own? Or would you like some help? And Hank Greenberg said so famously, all I want in life is an unfair advantage. And so with your permission, what I'd like to do is show you some options if you want to work with the right who. After I do that, I would be more than happy to answer any question that you might have about any of the content here. And I'm happy to stay on as long as you want. So I would like to share with you a program that I'm launching called the Power Prospecting Program. So this is intended as a complete package to give you everything that you need in order to accelerate your growth in the medical market. So it has a number of elements. The first is a training course. I have a signature course called the Cracking the Physician Code course. Before I started seeing patients, I went to medical school. This is kind of like medical marketing school. So these are the things that you need to know in order to build a doctor-friendly practice from scratch. So it includes the 10 laws of physician engagement. This characterizes some of the differences between the way that suits work and the way that white coats work. A lot of people want to argue with this, but it's kind of like the law of gravity. I'm holding my water. If I were to lose my grip, I know what would happen because I know about the law of gravity. Well, the 10 laws of physician engagement help predict what kinds of results that you are going to get, and more importantly, how to take action so that you're most likely to get the kinds of results that you want. I also lay out the B to D blueprint. So it's a simple 6-step system. I go into exquisite detail about all of the minutiae that you need to know to do this right. I want to make sure that you get the optimal return on your investment. Now, I've been delivering this course for over a decade now, and I engage in evidence-based marketing. Like, I want ideas that are really going to work. After every course, I've been going to financial advisors asking, what worked for you in this course? What didn't work for you in this course? And so I have been tweaking and developing this for about a decade now. So the ideas the participants get work. Now, this is available as a home study course, but once a year, I offer a live boot camp. So it's all of this content, most updated for 2022. And I'm going to be delivering this live boot camp July 13th, 14th, and 15th. So you've got an opportunity not just to access the course, but to access it live virtually. Unfortunately, I'm still not back to an in-person boot camp, but you'll still have the opportunity to ask questions. Next, you need yummy treats. I think a great way of building a relationship with doctors is to start out by giving a gift. It activates the law of reciprocity. And I've written books that are proven to work. I told you I've been all over the country. Well, imagine if you had access to a digital version of the book with a license for unrestricted distribution. You had access to the audiobooks, and you could use these proven yummy treats as a way of beginning relationships with doctors. So participants in the Power Prospecting Program get a license for unrestricted distribution of The Myth of the Rich Doctor, The 9 Money Mistakes That Doctors Make, a book, Caregiving Without Regrets, which I wrote a while ago for family caregivers. So if you sell long-term care insurance, this is a great yummy treat. You also have a license to distribution my cartoon, Navigating to Wealth. And here's how financial advisors use that. They can copy this cartoon onto their own letterhead. Then if you're sitting down with a doctor, you can give them this sheet, give them a red pen, and say, doctor, could you circle the 3 icebergs that get in your way of navigating to wealth? And doctors kind of get this cartoon, and that gives the advisor a way of starting a client-centered conversation, because now they've told you what their biggest concerns are. So I've had people print this on the back of their business cards. I've had thank you notes. This is the front page of a thank you note. This is a very powerful tool. Plus, you're licensing the intellectual property. So if you want to pull things out and make special reports, like one of the 9 money mistakes is overpaying taxes, you could potentially craft that chapter into a special report. And you've got a license for that. All I ask is that you attribute this as my intellectual property, reproduce with permission by Dr. Vicki Rackner. And again, that kind of works in your favor because now you've got a relationship with me. Third, there is live coaching. So you're going to get lots of information, but the question is always, what does this information mean for me? How do I apply this in my life? So for example, one of the first steps in the B2D blueprint is to figure out 3 to 5 tribes of doctors who might be good fits for you. Well, I can lay them all out, but on live coaching calls, we can also hop on. I can learn a little bit more about you, and I can point you in the direction of tribes that you may or may not have considered. Next thing that you get is training about how to build digital sales funnels. I think that this is a must. So this is training that walks you through, here are the elements, here's what you do in what order. And remember, you've got those yummy treats. So those yummy treats can be used to fill your digital sales funnel. So, you not only get all of the audio chapters, but you also get email swipe files, like here's what you say in the first email. You've even got social badges if you want to do social marketing, like on Facebook. Next, you get a marketing campaign of the month. You get 12 of them. So every month you'll get a different idea about a bold move that will help you attract, engage, and serve more doctors. So just some examples of what those are: how to engage doctors through gift giving, how to leverage curated content to engage doctors, how to engage doctors at medical meetings they're returning. And boy, it's a great opportunity. How to engage doctors by addressing their concerns about lawsuits. This is one of the biggest fears that doctors have. How to engage doctors on Facebook or LinkedIn. How to jump on July 1st opportunities. Medical school generally starts on July 1st. And so because most doctors sign annual contracts and everyone moves up a level, most doctors who start new jobs do so July 1st. So there's a bunch of new doctors who are coming to town or who may already be in your town. When they're first starting their practice, that's sort of the one time in their careers where they're going to have time to go out to breakfast for you. So how do you leverage this kind of opportunity? In addition, you get access to a library of on-demand how-to videos. I call them the 1% videos. How can you get like 1% better? So they're quick tips. How do you master the language of the sale? How do you deal with people who say no? So it's a library of these very quick tips. Okay, you might ask, you might be meeting me for the first time, like, do these ideas really work? Is this person just a slick salesperson, or is she the real deal? So here's what one of my clients had to say about me.
So we've been working with Dr. Vicki for several months now, and it's been an incredible experience. In fact, we have grown so much. We're in the middle of a growth spurt right now. I think that we're going to probably triple our revenue this year. And I am so thankful and appreciative of the mentorship and the coaching that has come from Dr. Vicki, not only helping us to target physicians better, but also how to speak to physicians. It helps in our closing process. It actually helps in every aspect of what we're doing right now, from bringing in our clients to taking them through the whole sales process and closing them, and even dealing with the physicians as clients. I understand their needs a lot better. I understand their mentality a lot better, the psychology behind it, the emotional part of it. She's just so valuable. I can't even put a dollar amount to it. So Dr. Vicki, we appreciate you on a personal level and a business level, and I look forward to the future, continuing to work with you. Thank you so much for all you do. I highly recommend you. Highly, highly recommend you. Thank you so much.
Now, I'd love to be able to promise that you're going to triple your business, but of course, I can't promise any outcomes. Okay, you might be wondering, what is the investment for the Power Prospecting program? And as I considered the fee, because I believe in value-based fee, I asked myself the question, what's the value of a single physician client? If you think about a doctor and you assume that you were going to have that doctor client for life, you can probably calculate that for yourself. What's the value of being perceived as a physician's partner? What's the value of getting tested marketing material, testing yummy treats that doctors really do want? What's the value of not stumbling at the starting gate or the finishing line? I will tell you that you can purchase all of the individual elements in the Power Prospecting program. And, it's about what? $19,000. But I want to help doctors, and I want to help you acquire more doctors. So you're not going to be paying $19,000 for this. You're not going to be paying $10,000 for this. You're going to be paying $19.97 Plus, for those who act early, I like to reward people who take rapid action. So if you sign up in the next 24 hours, there are some bonuses. I've got the Done For You webinar funnel. So you get training about how to leverage webinars as a marketing tool, specifically how to get doctors to sign up, show up, and step up. Plus, you get a webinar that I have pre-recorded about the 9 money mistakes that doctors made and offered you marketing materials so that you can take this and now go out and build your list by offering this on-demand webinar. In addition, you will get the Done For You quiz funnel. Remember, I told you it's important not to ask doctors to open up their financial kimonos too quickly. Well, a great marketing tool that I have developed are some quizzes. So this one is, what is your financial pain personality? Doctors take a 1-minute quiz. After they take the quiz, I tell them what their financial pain personality is. I offer to send them a free e-report. And then I have a video that tells them a little bit more about what this means and how it plays out in their financial life. And then I say, and if you want to know more about how this applies to you, go to the person who offered you the quiz. So this is the kind of thing that you could offer on your homepage of your website. You could even have a Facebook ad and drive doctors to this quiz. It's a really great and cost-effective way of building your list. And then the third bonus is my insider list of the most profitable and overlooked medical niches. Normally, I just deliver this content to the financial advisors who pay me tens of thousands of dollars to gain access to my coaching. So that means that in addition to all of the value that you get about $3,000 in additional bonuses, all for taking early action. Now, you might be wondering, is she really the real deal? Is the medical market right for me? And I just want to say that I tend to trust pretty easily. And I've trusted people I shouldn't have trusted. They were slick salespeople who didn't deliver. And I don't want anyone saying that about me. So all of my products and services come with an unconditional guarantee. If you get started and you decide this isn't for me, I made a mistake, you get your money back, no questions asked. In addition, I have a second level of guarantee. So it's a 365-day guarantee. So if you do the work, if you implement the campaigns that I lay out and you don't get results, you also get your money back. Now you need to show that you've actually done the work. But I just want to make sure that you feel safe investing in this direction. I guess I'll close by asking, what is your dream? What are you hoping to achieve? And do you think that the medical market is a good fit for you? So I am happy to answer any questions that you might have. I see that there are some. Okay, so let me go through some of the questions that have already come in. And Ken, I'm going to start with your question. How has regulation and government oversight affected physicians in terms of their practices? Great question. So probably the most important change came from a little piece of legislation that came with the Affordable Care Act. It was called the Sunshine Act. And with Obamacare, the government was going to be paying for a lot more medication. They also knew the pharmaceutical industry tricks. They understood that the pharmaceutical industry knows that they can impact prescribing behavior by giving doctors gifts. So In order to keep that from happening, in order to inspire doctors to truly prescribe the medication that's going to be the best fit for the patient, the Sunshine Act says that if a doctor receives something of more than $25 worth of value from either a medical device company or from the pharmaceutical industry, their name gets reported to a public database. Okay, no doctor wants his or her name on this database. And so doctors started getting real specific about whom they would speak with and what gifts they accepted. So it was already pretty tough to get past the gatekeeper, but now there's even a higher barrier. So getting through the gatekeeper is more challenging than ever, and so we've got some tricks to get around that. I already showed you my speaking contract that had a disclosure about potential financial conflicts. So this is another great example about the differences between a suit and a white coat. I mean, as a suit, you know that a great way of building trust and building your business is by going out and speaking, by delivering high value information. And in the world of business, that is recognized as an ethical activity, yet it's seen with suspicion among white coats. So more and more financial advisors are finding that doors are closed to them. You know, maybe they used to go in and deliver financial literacy talks to new staff at a hospital or a clinic, and those doors are closing. So all of this means that you need to be creative about finding ways to engage doctors. And if that didn't completely answer your question, please feel welcome to follow up. Lorna asks how to get them to actually make the appointments because they're so busy and it can be hard to actually meet. Absolutely, Lorna, you are absolutely right. Now, as I think about the kinds of marketing campaigns, I think of three flavors. One is relationship marketing. So that's the one that financial advisors normally call on. Maybe they've got a personal or social relationship and they graciously try to shift to a professional relationship. And it's generally one-on-one. All right, that is really slow going with doctors because their patients are going to be first. So even if you've made an appointment with a doctor and one of their patients comes into the ER, that appointment is going to be canceled. Not because of your value, but just because that's what's most important for doctors. So I recommend educational marketing. So this is where you apply leverage. You find out where those fishing holes are, either virtual or physical, and you try to reach groups of doctors rather than individual. You also have options about how doctors can get together with you. And when you want to get them to an appointment, one little tip is to remind them why they want to meet with you. Remind them of their dream. What inspired them to want to sit down and speak with you? And then always speak to that. Now, what you don't want to do is you don't want to stalk doctors. I had somebody who had invited me in to deliver a talk for a dinner meeting that he had. A whole bunch of doctors said that they were interested in following up with them. But when he went to actually schedule the appointments, he couldn't get the doctors on the phone. And he called me really frustrated. I just said, don't worry about it. Just go ahead and keep on delivering value. And at the end of each email, it's sort of like, click here to schedule an appointment. Doctors will move forward on their own time scale. So for example, if I had a patient die, I actually was sued one time. If there's a family emergency, even if they wanted to meet with you, something else could take priority. It could distract them for a while. Again, it has nothing to do with your value. It's just the way that the human brain works. So again, I wouldn't invest too highly in any one relationship. Instead, I recommend investing in a system, in a funnel that will reliably get doctors into the funnel and then regularly be dripping out content that's been shown to build that trust and move people to that next stage of like the marketing labyrinth, their next stage of building trust with you, and then just playing the numbers. Okay, Lorna also asks, really knowing and understanding what physicians want and need from us as an advisor, what their concerns are, pain points, etc. Okay, exactly. Now here's the deal. One of the modules of the B2D blueprint is a process called an informational interview. Things are changing so quickly for doctors. There's such great regional variation that what's important is that you be able to get in the mind of your tribe members and ideally reaching out to the key physician opinion leaders. So like if you want to work with cardiologists, the past president of the State Cardiology Association is a great person to go to for this informational interview. You always want to be asking, doctor, if I had a magic wand, what change would you like to make? Find out what's going on in their lives right now. Find out where they are. Are they listening to podcasts? Are they reading blogs? Are they going to association meetings? So that gives you the intelligence of being where they're already gathering. And if you know what their magic wand would enable, now you can offer something that would help them move closer to that magical outcome that they want. Do you have a payment plan option? Thank you for asking. Yes, I do. So you have a couple of choices. You can break out this investment into either 3 payments or into monthly payments. Somebody asked me, this is absolutely nuts. I know your stuff works. Why are you offering this at such a low cost? And my answer is because what drives me is helping doctors. Doctors are here. They are confused. They need your help. And I want to make it easier for you to get the skills and tools that you need to be able to help that doctor, because every doctor that you help means that a doctor is going to be better able to serve his or her patients. They build wealth so that they can make investments in their community. I mean, we need to get our economy up and going. Why don't I just offer it for free, you might ask? Well, my business coach would kill me, first of all. But second of all, what I've figured out is that when I give things away for free, people don't value them as much. $2,000 is a nominal investment compared to the value that you get. Now, one of the questions that I just got this week was, look, I'm really excited about the boot camp. I want to just jump in right now. I don't want to wait until July. And so once you sign up, you will get access to last year's recordings so that you can get started. The content that I'm going to be delivering July 13th, 14th, and 15th is going to reflect what's going on today, and there are changes, but still some of the core ideas are the same. I mean, the B2D blueprint is the B2D blueprint. I want to thank you for investing time today. I hope that this has offered you some clarity about whether the medical market is a good fit for you or not, and what you might be able to do to experience more success from your efforts. So thank you again, and bye-bye for now.